So why did God choose to save James White and not the latest atheist that he has debated, who may gone on to be with the Lord? Okay, so the last atheist.
What did I do? Kill him or something? Knocking off my atheist opponents or now? I don't know what that was about.
Has died. Why did God choose James White and not that person? Well, the Calvinist answer to that question is, well, we don't know.
No, the Calvin. Deep breaths. I need to find some essential oils. Could we get Karen to send? Poor Karen. I feel sorry for any woman named Karen today who sells essential oils, because was it Babylon Bee that started that? I think Babylon Bee might be accountable for the attacks upon Karen, the essential oil salesman. But I need some essential oils right now. It'll just make everything happy again. What were we talking about? Oh yeah. The man claims to be a former Calvinist, but he cannot for the life of him accurately represent what he allegedly once believed. Can't do it. He's got a religious compunction against doing it. Can't do it. Why is one chosen over another? You see, provisionism is so man-centered that it defines everyone, even our views, in light of their limited categories. That's obvious. We've documented this for years now, and it's only getting worse. It's not getting better. You say, we don't know. If you mean we don't know, as in some earthly knowledge of mankind, that's one thing. But the answer that Reformed theology gives is found in Ephesians chapter 1. The grounds of the choice in Romans 9, which we're supposed to have debated once, Ephesians chapter 1 is God's will. The goodness of God's will resulting in the praise of his glorious grace. So it's within God, and God does not have to reveal this to us, but it's not a, oh, we don't know. It's a God. It's a God thing. It's for his glory, and he doesn't have to reveal that to us. But there is a reason. And what we do know is, if it's based upon what man does, then God's a respecter of persons. And grace is no longer free. And I think that's what you're going to end up saying by the time we get done with this. The scary thing about this is I think Leighton Flowers ended up saying in this very presentation that the elect are those that love God. They love God, therefore they become the elect. As if the rebel sinner has the ability to take out a heart of stone, give himself a heart of flesh, and love God. And you know why that really bothers me? Because that's what the Book of Mormon says. Isn't it? What does the Book of Mormon say? What did I do? Put it back? Oh, yeah, I put it back. Well, I've got the big one down there, but that weighs 47 pounds. Nope, no, that's an open Bible. It's same cover, but what does the Book of Mormon say? If you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, then is his grace sufficient for you. I don't know how to differentiate that from what Leighton Flowers is about to say about the Epistle to Clement and how he's going to interpret chapter 59. That's frightening. That's frightening for Leighton. We should pray for him because he's going way, way out there.
Well, the Calvinist answer to that question is, well, we don't know. It's not revealed to us. It's a mystery, and it's according to God's secret counsel. We don't know. And we just know this. Calvinists say they know this. It has nothing to do with us personally. It has nothing to do with our faith, our choices, our behaviors, our actions. God's election is unconditionally done. And it's an unconditional election, okay? And so it is completely without regard to the person's decisions, actions, their faith, anything of that nature.
It's eternal. It is God's activity in eternity. It is to his glory alone. And it is that part is true. That's exactly, it has to be for grace to be free. Not deserved, not earned. Okay, so let's see what the other option is.
We as provisionists, we would say this instead. We'd say God has graciously chooses to save those who put their trust in him. Okay.
Now, God has let me slow it back down here. I want you to hear this. I want you, we want to accurately represent here.
Of that nature. Now, we as provisionists, we would say this instead. We'd say God has graciously chooses to save those who put their trust in him.
I think there was a mispronunciation of something in there, but it sounded like God graciously chooses to save those who put their trust in him. I think that's what it says. So their trust results in their being chosen. Okay, so if God knows who's going to do that, then the number of the elect would be fixed. So I'd like to know from Leighton, when God created, was the number of the elect fixed in God's mind? I think that's a fair question, isn't it? I think it's a fair question. But there's more to it.
Okay, so we don't believe that God unconditionally elects people to be saved. We believe that God graciously chooses to save those who freely choose to put their trust in him. God's election to send the gospel to all people is not conditioned upon their good or bad things that they do.
Did you catch that? God's election to do what? To send the gospel to people. It's to act. It's to do something, to provide something. It's not actually a choice of anyone. There is no free, positive act of God in this matter. He sends a gospel. He chooses not a person, but an act. It's impersonal than that. It's choose to act. And that act only provides. May have provided for nobody, I guess. I don't know. Whether there is again, as a Southern Baptist, he can't escape this, but his system really doesn't have room for it. I mean, to me, Leighton Flowers needs to seriously consider leaving the Southern Baptist Convention and becoming an open theist. He would finally find his people if he were to do that.
It's, in other words, unconditional of their morality, but it is conditioned upon their faith in him. Now, this is the distinction that sometimes Calvinists are not very good at pointing out, and this is what I'm trying to point out to you.
Yeah, so we somehow have a duty to point out this distinction that you're... Okay, all right, fine.
So that you see the difference. When we can talk about somebody being saved unconditional of their morality, the good or bad they do, because there's good and bad people both in heaven and hell, relatively speaking.
Did you catch that? Now, he said relatively speaking, but there are good and bad people in heaven and hell, relatively speaking. I'm going to try my best to interpret this in the least heretical possible way. Because obviously, the only people in hell are bad people. And the only people in heaven are people who have the righteousness of Christ. Okay? It's not a mixture. It's not good and bad. I think what he's saying is that there are people in hell who, on a human moral level, were better than some people who are in heaven who've been saved by grace. I think that's what he was trying to say, but in the process muddled it so badly it became a really bad statement. Everybody in hell is the enemy of God. Everybody in heaven is in love with God. Why the one over the other? See, that's where we differ. The ones who are in heaven are saved by grace. And by grace, they are freed from their slavery. They're given a new heart. And they're changed from God haters to God lovers. They are not saved because they were God lovers to begin with. That's the big difference. Big, big, big difference.
There are people who live more moral lives in hell than even some who may be in heaven who live less moral lives, okay? So it's not about morality, the good and bad they do. So you can say someone is saved unconditional of their moral living as in comparison with somebody else who ends up in heaven or in hell, okay? So that's not the condition. The condition is not the morality, the good or bad they do. So what is the condition? Well, we just don't know what it is if you're a Calvinist.
We just don't know what it is if you're a Calvinist. What is the condition? No. The condition is the finished work of Jesus Christ upon the cross of Calvary. Every Calvinist knows that. Every Calvinist knows that the only condition that brings one into the presence of God is union with Christ that brings you his righteousness. Otherwise, you will not stand before a holy God. You said you were a Calvinist once, and yet you can never, ever represent us correctly. At least I play you.
What we would say, no, we know what the condition is. It's faith, okay? So they say it's unconditional. We say the condition is faith. And so we still do believe it's not based upon the good or bad that you do, i.e. your morality, but it is conditioned upon faith. And Calvinists say it's not conditioned on the good or bad you do, and it's not conditioned upon faith, the election. And that's what we're pushing back on. We're saying, yes, it's not conditioned upon the good or bad you do, but it is conditioned upon your faith in Christ. And that's the difference between our two worldviews. So now that we know the two differences, two sides.
Okay.